Hello and welcome to episode 49 of Game Patrol. I'm your host, Landon Plumley, and it is simply I, yet again, for another week. Biggest problem now is schedule-wise. I think I mentioned it last episode about how, given my work schedule at the current moment in time, it makes it very difficult to record this in a timely manner. And so because of it, whenever I'm available, nobody else is. That's what sucks about working at a bar. Don't get me wrong, I definitely I enjoy it, but it makes my schedule different than everybody else's. Like, this is my morning, and it's currently 2:32 in the afternoon. And so yeah, but just me again. Hopefully I can get some guests on here at some point. We'll see. I don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead. I've got a lot of awesome stuff to talk about. I apologize if I'm tired. I said this was my morning, but I've actually been up for a while. It should be my morning. I should have just woken up recently, but I didn't because it's just how my brain works. And so I've got plenty of stuff to talk about. I'm really excited because two awesome games have launched since the last episode. I took last week off, like I said. My intention was to be with family, and technically I was. They came up the weekend before, but something happened where I couldn't go down to see them. Like, my work schedule got all over the place, and then I felt bad, but then one of my family members got COVID. And so the people I was going to see, they were in contact with them, and so they had to quarantine, and it was just a messy situation. So better that I didn't go anyway. But yeah, so I didn't actually end up doing exactly what I had planned, but I was still off, still taking care of stuff, still pretty far behind in life, but what else is new? But without further ado, let's talk about the first game, the big game that everybody's talking about right now, Deathloop. I've played it. I haven't quite beaten it yet. Currently where I'm at now, I'd say I'm maybe about halfway through, maybe about 2/3 of the way through, somewhere around there. It's a little hard to quantify how far you are in the game just because of its structure. Like, for those that don't know, it's basically you're stuck in a time loop. You're trying to get out, and you basically have to kill these 8 visionaries, which are like the leaders of this island that you're on, right? So everybody on the island is trying to hunt you down. It is you against the world. And these 8 visionaries, these leaders of the island, they are what is tied to the loop, right? And so if you manage to kill all 8 visionaries in one day, you break the loop, right? And so essentially the game it takes however long you need it to take, right? To study the visionaries, learn where they're going to be, strategize how best to take them all out, because you can only go to certain parts of the island at certain times. And basically there are 4 districts, and there are 4 times: morning, afternoon, evening, and night. And you can only go to one district at a time. And time progresses as you travel between districts, and so you basically have to learn where the visionaries are, when's the best time, because you can't kill one visionary per district. You have to kill at least 2 in order to make it through all of them. And so you basically need to kind of learn their routines, learn what they do in this day, and figure out the best time to strike, and also build up your arsenal and make it to where you can actually pull this off. And so there's a lot of planning that has to go into place. And so, yeah, it's a very complex game, but it doesn't quite feel that way because it's just a lot of fun. But anyway, yeah, I've learned the strategies of a few visionaries. I've kind of figured out where I need to go. I've spent most of my time building my arsenal because I'm the type that I would much rather just build up my character to be this super awesome juggernaut to just blast my way through everything if I have to. I play games like this as stealthily as I can up to a certain point, and then if things go haywire, I just say, alright, well, screw it. And that's kind of the beauty of Deathloop, that separates it from games like Dishonored, which Dishonored is one of my favorite games of all time. Like, I love Dishonored, but, people frequently mention the fact that Dishonored has a chaos system where, like, if you, cause more chaos, you kill more people, or you cause more scenes and that sort of stuff, it will, like, give you a worse off ending. Whereas in Deathloop, they don't care. Like, you can do whatever you want in Deathloop because the day resets. And so the game encourages you to kill everyone, basically. And so while stealth will definitely help you in terms of doing different things, like there is a visionary in the game where if she notices you, she will set a nuclear reactor to explode and destroy the whole island, therefore resetting the day. So you have to take her on stealthily, at least in a certain instance, because again, there is an instance where she's not around that reactor. But again, if you tackle her a certain way when she's near the reactor, she'll literally blow it up if she spots you. And so it's one of those things where stealth is definitely still advantageous in the game, but should things go haywire, in most circumstances, it's perfectly fine as long as you have the skill to back it up. And so I've been upgrading my arsenal, which includes slabs and weapons. So it's very much an FPS. There are really cool guns in this game. I've just finally gotten to the part where I'm starting to get like some really good legendary guns. Like I have this really cool sniper and what's the other one? I believe it's a pistol. I haven't used it too much yet. And it's been a few days since I've played because I got focused on the other game I'm going to talk about, which is in the title. You already know it's Kana, but like anyway, I think it's some sort of handgun that is really, really dope from what I've used so far. So I'm getting that, but then I've also been concerned with slabs, which are kind of like abilities in Dishonored. Like the shift ability is basically the teleporting ability from Dishonored. They just ripped it straight out. It's very shameless, but it's their. I mean, it's the same studio, so whatever. I don't care. It's a dope ability. Why not? But they're basically different supernatural abilities that, give you all sorts of different things you're allowed to do, and you take them off of visionaries. So when you kill a visionary, you can take their slab, right? And you can then upgrade the slab depending on like how many times you kill the visionary. So the more times you kill a visionary, the more times you can upgrade your slab. But that's only if you learn how to infuse it, and I'm trying not to go too deep into like spoilers or anything. I'm trying to stick with only like main gameplay mechanics that they have described beforehand. So don't be worried about spoilers in this. I'm not planning on doing it. And so basically, when the loop resets, you lose everything, right? Unless you infuse them, which is something that like the game steers you towards early on. It is basically this system that you don't immediately have, but it allows you to kind of spend residium, which is like kind of this energy that like this I'm not exactly quite sure what it is. It's like loop energy, sort of, that like some scientists that have been experimenting inside the loop have concocted. You can like harness the energy to infuse weapons, slabs, different things like that, so that it stays with you during the loop. So you collect residium as you play the game, and you can use it to infuse whatever you want. Obviously, better weapons or slabs require more residium, but all that stuff. And so, like I said, I've described a lot of very complex systems here, but the game does a very good job of easing you into it and being very good with the tutorials and just explaining it to you very, not necessarily slowly, but just easing you into it. And so, because it really, while it has a lot of really cool concepts that are brought together in a way that I don't think any game has ever done before, the game doesn't feel like a completely new concept of a game. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a good way, actually, because it does feel like such a familiar type of game that all of these concepts don't feel so overwhelming. It just basically is, it takes concepts that the games industry has been using for years and mixes them together in ways that have never been done before. And so while I've listed off all these systems in different ways and everything, it's all brought together in a way that makes it truly special. And that is the beauty of Deathloop, is that nothing in this game has really never been done before, but this game has never been made before, if that makes any sense. Because like I said, they're taking stuff from all over the games industry. Not to say that there aren't original ideas in here, because when you get to the story, you know, there's a lot of originality in that. But in terms of gameplay mechanics, really everything in Deathloop has been done before. They just haven't been done together, because on paper it sounds difficult and, you know, outrageous, and, you know, they are. But Arcane just managed to make it work, and spectacularly so. They even added the Dark Souls mechanic, because one of the visionaries, Juliana, you have a close relationship with, even though you're trying to kill each other. And that Juliana, that basically she is hunting you down. She is the head of security, and so she is the one visionary that is also hunting you. And Juliana can be played by another person. So you have the option to play the main game like as Colt, the person who is trying to escape the loop, or you play as Juliana and try to thwart other players. So you invade people's games to try to do it. And let me tell you, sometimes that is the most frustrating experience in the world. Like, it is basically when you are in that like first half of the game and you're still kind of grinding to get your arsenal up, to learn more, that sort of stuff. It is a challenge to take on a Juliana. It's like the AI in the tutorial, not really, it's pretty easy, but you know, people invading your games, because most of them, not all, but most Julianas that invade are experienced players that like have probably beaten the game. They have very good loot, like their loadout is impressive, and so they know what they're doing, right? And so meanwhile, you may not especially, you know the map very well yet. You might not have much of an arsenal. It is hard, and they will most likely stop you in your tracks. I have pulled off some really nice plays to take down Julianas before, but there's also been a couple instances where we've both killed each other. So I've successfully taken her down, and it tells me I have, but then like an Eternalist, which is one of the people on the island, managed to get a shot off because they were in the area, and so they finished me off, so I'm still dead, right? And so there is a revive mechanic. It is basically Colt slab. Like, you take slabs from visionaries, but Colt has a slab of his own called revive, where you basically can die 3 times before you get reset. And so once you're dead, because you die very quickly in this game, depending on the weapon, what's being used on you, and that sort of stuff, you don't have a ton of health. And so that's another reason why stealth is pretty advantageous, because if you're not playing smart, you can die very quickly in the game. So you have to utilize cover and all that sort of stuff. When you do get into a firefight, you can't just go gun blazing necessarily, just right off the bat. And so you die very quickly, but you basically, like, time rewinds a little bit and you pop up, because you don't pop up exactly right where you are, so it kind of helps to like get out of that firefight and sort of re-strategize a little bit. But you can do that 3 times until you leave the district. Whenever you leave the district and time progresses, that is reset. So it's not like you have 3 lives throughout the entirety of the loop. You have 3 lives throughout the entirety of the quote-unquote level, or wherever you're at. And so I know I'm explaining a lot of the systems here, but it's just, like I said, this is basically me talking all about Deathloop and what I thought, and just explaining all these systems because they're so good and how they work together. And so, yeah, I don't know if I necessarily needed to have this huge deep dive into it, but it works so well. But Juliana can really screw me over sometimes, especially at night. Night is the worst one, and like, it's also the least impactful, because when you get to the night, you have already accomplished most of what you wanted to do in that loop, in terms of collecting residium, infusing stuff, getting through visionaries. Although there are 2 visionaries that at first only pop up at night, And so, that is important because you want to be able to learn about them. And that is usually what I try to spend my nights doing, but I'm constantly dealing with some Juliana. And you can turn this off if this is annoying to you. You can make it to where people can't invade your worlds. You can go into offline mode. I just feel like that is like admitting defeat, so I refuse to do that. But basically, if you have a Juliana hunting you at night in Updom, like other ones, not I don't really care about, but Updom at night is a pain in the butt because basically there's this huge castle, right? So any Juliana with a sniper is just gonna sit on top of the castle, and as soon as you come by to deal with Alexi or just anywhere near the Dorsey Square, they will snipe you, and it's annoying. I've never survived a night in Updom when a Juliana has hunted me. I've always been killed by her, like every time. It's super annoying. Like I said, it's not the worst thing in the world because it's like I've done pretty much all I needed to do, but I've made very little progress going. Like, I have not even seen Alexi yet, and I've tried to go after him like either 2 or 3 times, but I'm always shut down by Juliana. So it's kind of something I've stayed away from for now because I just don't know what to do with it. But yeah. So anyway, there's a ton of systems in Deathloop. There's a ton of fun to be had. It's a great time because there's also plenty of different ways you can go about it. So like there's basically 2 main quest lines that branch off into like 6 or 7 different quests, right? And so you can go about it however you want in terms of order or whatever. Basically every quest happens at a certain district at a certain time. So you can't do every quest whenever you want. So a lot of it has to do with like, what time of day you're in terms of what you have access to at that moment. And you can also choose to just wait through the day, but obviously that's going to be less advantageous to you because you're just wasting precious time. And so but if you just really want to do something in the evening, you can skip to that if you want, no harm in that. But there are arsenal leads, and then there are, I believe, visionary leads is what the other ones are called. And so the visionary leads, which I don't think they are called visionary leads, but I honestly don't. I've been so focused on arsenal leads, that's why I know that better, because like I said, I want to build myself up. But these other leads, it's kind of like the main quest line. It's about learning the visionaries, kind of figuring out when's the best time to strike. It's a lot more story oriented and basically helps you better understand the island's history, your history in being there, kind of discovering your past and how everything's all connected. And so it's kind of like the main storyline, whereas the arsenal leads are kind of like side quests. Some of them have bits and pieces of story in them. Like there is an arsenal lead that just randomly popped up as I progressed through the game, where an Eternalist was pissed that I was like, she was pissed because she was basically put on guard duty until I was dead, and so like she didn't want to be there, so she set a trap for me, and so I had to go investigate, and so that was just a random quest that popped up. But for the most part, it's all about obtaining slabs, right? So it's about, it's like, this visionary is going to be here at this time, go after him, right? And so there's like the 2 types of quests. One is more about building up your abilities and weapons, and the other is all about, figuring out how to break the loop. And so those are like the main sort of quests, but it's all open-ended. It's all do it in whatever order you want to do and just learn the world. Like I said, there's 4 districts, so there's essentially 4 maps, which are pretty decently big in size, but you're going to the same places over and over again, and so you're learning how to navigate them, how to go through the terrain, and it would seem like it would get repetitive, and it can if you're going about it the wrong way. Like for me, it's starting to get a little repetitive because I've been so focused on arsenal leads, and so I've made a point to shift from that and start going towards the main story, even though I haven't quite like maxed out everything yet. I realized that I'm kind of making my experience worse because I'm only focusing on all the side stuff versus really progressing my story. And so it can get a little repetitive if you're more so focused on other things. But you know basically, as you're learning the map, there are a ton of different ways to approach stuff. Like, there's probably dozens of ways that you can kill visionaries in each given circumstance, each, like, varying on stealth or combat or that sort of stuff. Like, there's one visionary who has separated his brain, and put it into an AI, and the AI remembers you through each loop, whereas the other ones don't. Like, the visionaries don't remember you because each time the loop is reset, right? And so the visionaries are none the wiser, but this AI remembers you and adapts time after time. Like, one time I tried to sneak through the window to go after him, and I successfully killed him, and now the AI is trying to protect him, and so the next time I went, it sealed off the windows, so I couldn't go in that way, so I had to try to find another route. And so, but that being said, there's a ton of different routes throughout each map and different things you discover, and different things like that can sometimes force your hand, because also, depending on the time of day, like, enemy rotations change, different pathways are blocked off during certain parts of the day, and so the maps change. But also there is familiarity in terms of, like, Updom in the day, like Updom in the morning is going to be the exact same every time in terms of where the enemies are, what's open and closed, all of that. Like I said, save for frickin' 2-bit, the AI, who likes to change things up. But for the most part, it's going to be the same. So as you learn, you basically are trying to set up the perfect loop, right? Like, set up a way to take down all 8 visionaries and, be a really cool dude. And so it's just really fun learning all of that and that sort of stuff. And it's might not seem quite as glamorous when it's, like, being said, but just slowly piecing the island together, and just understanding it all and the people and all of that, it's so satisfying once you finally feel like you've got it all figured out. And I haven't quite gotten there yet, but I've obviously, I figured out certain parts of the game, certain parts of the island and its inhabitants, that it's very satisfying to make that progress. And it's just unlike anything I've ever really played before. But like I said, everything in there in terms of gameplay elements has been done before, just not in this way, in this really cool, interesting way of, like, mixing an FPS with stealth and roguelikes and just mushing it all into one fantastic thing. And it's nuts. I'm gonna take a little drink here because I've been talking a lot. But yeah, I mean, that's Deathloop. And so I've been rambling. I would like to move on in case, for the people who don't care at all about Deathloop, because, to be fair, it is only on PS5 and PC for now, so that kind of locks off the Xbox and Nintendo Switch community for now, which is, hilarious, because Xbox technically made the game, as they bought Bethesda last year, which that was a year ago now. That it was a year, 2 days ago, that Xbox and Bethesda officially became one. And so, now, like, Deathloop is a game published by Xbox, well, technically published by Bethesda, but, published by Microsoft, I should say. And it's a PlayStation 5 console exclusive for now. It'll come to Game Pass next year, and I can't wait for Xbox fans to play it, because it's a really, really good game. Like, game of the year caliber type game. It's just an incredible experience, Like, the more I talk about it, the more I realize, and, it all just kind of clicks even more in my head for me about what makes this game special, and just how everything all works together. I mean, the amount of systems Arcane made for this game is just nuts, Like, being able to make all this stuff work. And it's really, really cool. It also looks really great, and it's a true next-gen game. I'm always on the lookout for those. Like, currently, I think The next one will be Stalker 2 in April, assuming we don't get anything before then, because since with COVID, we've kind of, we don't get our release dates super far in advance anymore, unless you're Starfield. So, there could be something before that, but I try to keep track of, next gen games. Not that they automatically mean higher quality, but just I have this PS5. I want to be able to, use it, like, kind of see what it can do, right? And when you have games that are cross-gen, again, not that they're bad. One of my favorite games this year is Resident Evil Village, and that was a cross-gen game. But it just means that, like, there are certain things they can't necessarily do with the new consoles because they are also releasing it on a console that was released in 2013. So there's certain hardware limitations that they have to consider. And, like, people brought that into the debate with Halo Infinite on why, like, should it or should it not be on Xbox One? Like, is that hindering it in any way? So, again, I try to keep an eye out for games that are not cross-gen and are exclusive to next-gen, because I want to see what these devs can do when they don't have that 8-year-old consoles kind of, potentially, like, hindering their ideas, I guess, So it's always nice to do that. That's why that's one of the reasons I was super excited for Deathloop. And there's a lot of cool stuff, like, lightning fast loading is really, really cool. That's something I noticed even more in Kena, which is just, loading doesn't exist in that game. But, yeah, Deathloop is a fantastic game. If you have a PS5 or PC, please check it out. Like, if you have a PC capable of running it, please check out Deathloop. I promise you won't regret it. There's been a lot of discourse, like, stupid, like, Sony users have been review bombing Deathloop because it's an Xbox game, and it's ridiculous. Like, it's an amazing game. It is on your system. Just play it, And there's also been some Xbots who've done it as well, but not near as many as actual just pony boys going around, like, not supporting this game just because it's published by Xbox. And it's like, what are they gonna go review bomb Skyrim now too? Like, what's going on? Like, it's ridiculous. The console war stuff, I've mentioned it countless times on here before. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. Just enjoy video games, man. Like, these are probably the same people that got so pissed about Days Gone coming to PC and all the other stuff. Like, I'm sure that a bunch of people were pissed when they announced that Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy are coming to PC next year. Like, just, they all probably collectively lost their minds. Like, why are you doing this? Like, who gets mad at stuff like that? These people, obviously, but there's no good reason for it. It's stupid, and I wish these gamers didn't exist, because it makes us look bad. It really does, to people on the outside looking in. And so, screw those guys and gals and non-binary people. I'm not gonna lie, my non-binary crowd, I feel like they're chiller than this. So, if there are any non-binary Xbox or ponies out there, I'm disappointed in you. But I feel like they are few and far between. But, yeah. Anyway, one last thing I want to say about Deathloop before we move on. I went way over what I've planned on talking with this, but I do want to mention something because I think it is important in 2021 to talk about it. I mean, really, it's always been important, but, now that people are talking about it more, I think it's important to keep bringing this stuff up since, people are listening now. There is a severe lack of accessibility with Deathloop. So, accessibility in games has been something over the past few years that has really become more vocalized. Like, The Last of Us Part 2 had an insane amount of accessibility options and is widely considered the most accessible game ever made in terms of just going all the way down to the game design being made so that anybody can play, regardless of disability, right? And so Deathloop just doesn't seem to have that. There's a bunch of different resources you can find on the internet to kind of go into detail about what it is that makes Deathloop so inaccessible, but really it's just it comes down to the design. Like Steve Saylor put out a video. If you don't know who he is, he's a really awesome guy who is also blind, and he is a gamer and plays video games. And so he was talking about how he really, really loved Deathloop, but he can't play it because it's just pretty much impossible for him to beat because of just really small text for one thing, no remapping, no button remapping. There's a lot of people are complaining about cursor-based menu selections being an issue for them, and just other various issues that he has to, like, disabled people have to deal with. And so us able-bodied gamers, it's obviously something we don't immediately think of. And again, I think a lot of these devs may not necessarily be thinking about this, and I don't necessarily blame them. Now, should they be? Absolutely. But when you're making a video game, I don't think, someone that can't see or hear or anything like that, I don't think they're the first people you're thinking of when you're thinking of your audience, right? But that doesn't mean that they aren't part of your audience, and so, care needs to be put in for that. And so the reason I bring this up is because I would like to see a world where in game development, these people are thought of not as an afterthought, because again, some games you can only do so much for in terms of accessibility, right? And it's because they've shipped the game, or at least they're about to ship, and they're doing final touches, and then they think about accessibility, about what can we add to make this game more accessible, and sometimes it's too late. And so the goal here is to get developers to think about it when they're creating the game. Like when you think about your audience, to include the accessibility community, to include disabled people of various different disabilities, and how can we make this game as inclusive as possible, while also not compromising our vision, because oftentimes it doesn't. The first big thing was difficulty, right? Because people talk about Dark Souls, like, should Dark Souls have an easy mode, that sort of stuff. But difficulty doesn't mean accessibility. Like, they're two very different things, because there's a difference between a game being too hard and then a game not being accessible. And so there's nothing about the design of Dark Souls that makes it to where being visually impaired would make the game harder. Sure, it might make it a little bit harder, but again, with certain accessibility options, there wouldn't be anything like that. Like colorblind mode, for instance, in a lot of games. It's just a simple fix. And all of that sort of stuff, just little tweaks that you can still enjoy the game. Sure, it might be a little bit different, but the core game is still there. And I think different tweaks like that, it's not that difficult. With Deathloop, a lot of these accessibility gamers have said that they don't really see a way for Deathloop to become accessible for gamers, just because of how it is designed. And again, go look that up if you want more detail, because I'm not an expert on any of it. I am an able-bodied gamer, and I've watched Steve Saylor's video on it. I've been able to read up on it, but I'm haven't read every single thing out for it. But yeah, there is a lack of accessibility for Deathloop, and that is, it sucks. And Steve was very emotional at the end of his video, honestly, talking about it, because he was talking, a lot of people are saying that this is their game of the year, and that this is for sure going to come up in game of the year conversations, and people like Steve, they won't really be able to participate on that front because of just not being able to play the game. And when in a time where accessibility is the best it's ever been in the games industry, it is sad to hear that, and I understand his pain. I empathize with him, or sympathize, right? Empathize is when you feel, sorry, I get that mixed up a lot. So I sympathize with him on that. And so I do want to bring this up just to I guess spread awareness, because again, I would love a world where every developer thinks of this not as an afterthought, but as a design thought when they're first creating a game, because everybody should be able to play video games. There are people out there with disabilities who love video games just as much as we do, sometimes more, and they should be able to enjoy them just like we do, or as close to as we do as possible. Um, there's no reason that they shouldn't be happy too. So that's why I mention it. And it sucks, but it doesn't change the fact that Deathloop is still an amazing game. It's not a perfect game, and that's one of the reasons for that, but still a great game nonetheless. Now I'm gonna take another drink, and then we're moving on to Kana, baby. All right. Now, for this other game, Kana is a mixed bag for me. So, Bridge of Spirits, this was one of my most anticipated games of the year. Deathloop was as well. This month's a real treat for me in terms of games that I've been excited for. But if you didn't know, I streamed the entirety of the game in one sitting with a little asterisk. I'll get to that later. But right when it came out, streamed through the whole game. There's a lot of things I gotta say about it. So first off, I want to be positive, and I want to start off with all the positive stuff because there is a lot. Like honestly, I'm in terms of like numerical values, I really hate doing them. I understand it makes things easier. I always look for numbers when I look at reviews, as much as I hate to admit it, because as someone who now writes reviews, they do suck, and like reviewers, myself included, always say like you never remember it. It's all about the words, but it's much easier to be like, oh, this game is a 7 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 or whatever. So I understand why they exist, but it doesn't mean I like them anymore. But I would probably give this game like an 8 out of 10. Like, it's a really great game, and the fact that it is Ember Lab's first game, and they used to be an animation studio, which, shocker there, looking at the game, but just bravo on them, because there's some stuff that they really, really nailed, and I seriously cannot wait to see what they come up with next. Like, I think that they're a very promising studio, and they probably only have great things ahead of them, hopefully, fingers crossed. And so, huge congrats to them on this game. I think they did a wonderful job. Not necessarily a perfect job, but I digress. Basically, if you love 3D Zelda games, you need to get this game, period. Like, that's like, this game, at times, it almost felt like a mix of, like, I don't know, like, almost like Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild had a baby, I would say, if I had to, I would say probably a mix of those two, because it definitely had a lot of Breath of the Wild vibes, because you're basically in this world where this poison has taken over, and everybody's kind of, like, dead. I realized that, like, kind of, like, a third of the way through. I'm like, wait, are we the only person alive? Like, is everybody dead? And I don't think they ever really answered that question, but you might be the only person alive, and so it kind of like, it almost feels like sort of the Breath of the Wild plot in terms of like the calamity has like taken out everybody, and all your friends are dead and everything. Like, not that you had relationships with these people before in Kana, but like, you're just communing with like spirits essentially. But it was giving me Breath of the Wild vibes through that, and just sort of going to like meeting different people, experiencing their stories and their connection to the calamity. I mean, the poison. But yeah, if you like Zelda games, if you like 3D Zelda games, this is gonna 100% be up your alley. It is gonna be very difficult though, towards the end especially. But yeah, so like I said, the gameplay wise, very much Zelda. I'd say like the biggest sort of, I guess, like buzzword type gameplay mechanic they have is the rot. They are your companions in the game, which is they're basically these cute little fluff balls that partner with you to kind of like enhance your abilities, I guess you would say. So Kana is a spirit guide, kind of like a medium almost in a sense. She can communicate with spirits, and she can harness energy from the spirit world, and it helps her with combat. Like, she has this staff which also operates as a bow, and then you get access to like spirit bombs like from Dragon Ball. So like there's all sorts of different abilities you can gain with that, and the rot sort of enhance those abilities. Like, they can make your bombs freeze people in time, or they can make your arrows piercing arrows, and different things like that. And so and they can also help heal you as well. So there's lots of different things that the rot can do. They're also very cute, and you collect hats through the game to make them look even cuter. And so yes, I love the rot. And there are plushies, I guess. I don't know if they're out yet or if they're just pre-orders, but I did consider getting one because they are very, very adorable. But yeah, essentially you've got that, and you've also got a ton of enemies, which, like, the enemy design just in general, especially when it comes to bosses, is like top tier. Like, I think this is some of the best enemy design I've seen in terms of both, visually and also in gameplay, just variety of like bosses and different things. Just really, really, really good. Like, top tier. The best I've seen in a long time. And so, perhaps ever. And so, props to them in terms of like enemy design / variety. Just very, very, very good. And the combat did feel solid. It's pretty simple, but like I said, it has a very natural progression in terms of gaining new abilities and new like upgrades, stuff like that. So while there's not a ton of new stuff, like you in the beginning and you at the end, like, it is different, of course, but it's also not like a full, like, this is a, well, is it $30 or $40? I don't remember, but it's not a full $60 game. So it is important to keep that in mind. I think that will help like temper expectations. So I think in terms of the value you're putting into it, it's not going to have quite as much content as a full $60 game. So it is, like I said, it's important to keep that in mind. But I think for what you're putting into it, it very much gives you content. Like, it very much gives you, I think, what you put into it in terms of value. So yeah, really, really solid gameplay. The story is it's good enough. Like, it's not bad, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't think the story is like groundbreakingly good, but like, again, it's definitely like Zelda and Pixar inspired, just coming up with their own little thing. And I would definitely like to see more. I think that it has plenty of room for more adventures and stuff like that. Should we get a sequel, that would be really cool. And I think they could expand on the story even more. But like, story's probably one of the weaker parts of the game, but again, it's not bad. It's just, there's nothing necessarily super stand out. Some of the voice acting, it did feel a little like not the absolute best, but it's an indie game. It's their first game. I don't know too much about all the talent that was involved in it, so again, not super upset. Like, it's their first try, like, and that's the biggest thing. Like, for this being the studio's first game, I am blown away. Like, just really fantastic, phenomenal job by the team. Really just very impressive for their very first game. Just good, really, really good stuff. Then we've got the not so great stuff, and I'm gonna take a drink here before I continue. But so I talked about the boss design. I think the bosses are really well made in this game. The biggest issue, and this is the thing that really almost ruined the entire experience for me, is the third act. So essentially, like, the game can be very challenging. Like, the bosses can be very hard at times throughout the game, but it's like a difficult but fair type of situation. Um, then when you get to the third act, you start dealing with some really tough bosses that like left me stuck for a while. Like it took me, a bunch of different tries to like get through these bosses, but eventually I got through it. Again, tough but fair. Just it tested my abilities until I got to the final boss, where I basically had to cheese my way through it until I realized that it wasn't the final boss. No, there was actually another boss past him, and this boss is the absolute worst final boss I have ever faced, ever. Like again, in terms of design, it's fine. Like it's great design. I think it's very well executed in terms of just like being different and being unique and really testing your skills. But it's officially like, it's carried out as if like it's a 3-stage boss, but really it's 5, because I'm trying to avoid spoilers with this, but there's essentially where you fight this boss, take down like a third of their health, then you have to fight like this wave of enemies, but you're handicapped in a certain way, and so it makes it very difficult. Like I think this, like, it's still technically considered part of the first phase, but I officially like this boss has 5 phases is really what it is. And so this second phase is the hardest phase for me, because it includes an enemy that technically is a boss, but then as you progress through the game, they just start appearing as you get stronger. But you're not stronger in this part because of your handicap, and so facing him, and then you also can't heal, like there's no healing available, it is a nightmare. Like I put an asterisk when I said that I streamed the entirety of the game, because I literally quit. At this point, I had been playing for 10 straight hours, and I don't know, I'd probably been trying that boss for like 45 minutes, because the boss fight took me 9 minutes to finally get through. But I quit. I was done. I was like, this is ridiculous, and I told myself I was done with the game. I wasn't going to do it, because I've done that before, where the final mission or level or boss has just been so absurdly difficult that I'm just like, it's not fun for me anymore, and it's just not. There's no reason that I don't even want to finish it anymore. And that's what I thought I was at. But then I got some sleep, which I desperately needed after playing a game for 10 straight hours. And then I woke up and I was just like, really just pure stubbornness was what was going on. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And so I got back on and kept dying. And eventually I got there, though. I did it, and I beat the game. I played on normal difficulty. There are 4 difficulty options. There's a story mode, and then there's spirit guide. I think expert spirit guide or something like that is the next one, and then there's master spirit guide. So the fact that this boss took everything inside of me that I could, like I had to take every bit of gamer knowledge, like the hand-eye coordination required for that on normal is insanely just absurd. So to do that on 2, like not even 1 higher difficulty, but 2 modes higher of difficulty, honestly, I don't even know if that's humanly possible. Like to the developer that did that to clear, because I assume there was QA for it or whatever, and like to whoever cleared that on Master Spirit Guide, I tip my hat to you, good sir or ma'am or whatever, because I could barely do it on normal. And the biggest problem I have with it, because okay, cool, you want to have really hard bosses, awesome, but like this is a game that could easily and has been marketed to children. And like, to be fair, a lot of these children are probably going to play on story mode, but like say you get like maybe like, tweens or teens or that sort of stuff that like, are enough where they're probably playing their games on normal, maybe even hard, depending on the skill level of that younger gamer. But like these people jumping into normal mode, and they get to the third act, and it's just they get mercilessly pounded after pounded after pounded, because it's like it's not really like a boss rush, but like the third act has a lot of very tough bosses in it that aren't super far apart. So you're getting your butt handed to you over and over and over again, and it ruins all of the momentum that the game has going for it, and it's just frustratingly difficult. And I am by no means a professional gamer. I've never beaten a Souls game. I'm very adamant about changing that. Like, that is a bucket list. I refuse to die until I beat at least one Souls game. Preferably, I would like to beat all of them, but we'll see. But I've never beaten one. I'm by no means like a super talented gamer, so I know that that's on me. But I'm definitely not bad at games. Like, I know my way around games. I've been playing them for quite a long time, and I've completed difficult games before. But the last 2 hours of Kena is just, to be fair, it's a nightmare. It is literally a nightmare. And so for a game that is so easily going to be on kids' wish list, like, there are going to be parents buying this game for their kids, and then if they dare to go on as hard as normal, which is I'm sure what a lot of people are going to go with, like, you're going to get your butt handed to you. Like, I have recommended to people I know that are more casual gamers, like, play this game on story mode, because otherwise you're just not going to have a fun time. It's just absurdly difficult. And so I don't necessarily like criticizing games for just being hard, but I think this type of game and that level of difficulty is just, it's stupid. It's just stupid. And so, yeah, it made me just not enjoy it at all. And so, like I said, I think this is a great game. I don't want to, make this sound like it's a bad game and not to get it, because I think that the game is really, really fun for, like, the first 2/3 of the game. And then the end is just, my God, I just want to get this over with. Like, I had very little fun at the end. It was very satisfying when I finally beat him. I clipped it, and it's on my Twitch, it's on my Twitter if you guys want to look that up. But yeah, it was painful. It was very painful. Like, I was sweating buckets playing it. Like, I was so hot. And a lot of it was just literally, I think I was making myself, because I'm a naturally, like, very hot person. Like, it's very hard to make me cold. Just, I don't know, it's how my body works. And so I think just the rage that I was doing was, like, boiling my insides. And so it was something else. But yeah, that's Kena. I'm gonna take another drink here. So I still recommend the game. I still think it's good. Just, I want to be very clear about that, because I still think it should be played. It's just, and you can adjust difficulty settings, so, like, you can play on normal until it gets to that point, and then you can always knock it down to story mode. I refuse to do that because, again, I'm too stubborn, but that is an option should you want it. You can't lower if you're on master, though. But if you are playing on master, first off, you have to beat the game to even unlock master spirit guide mode, and secondly, there's you are a masochist if you play this on master spirit guide. Like, I don't even, like I said, I'm sure there's gonna be people on YouTube doing, like, runs of it and stuff on master difficulty, but sure as hell will not be me, because just thinking about the last 2 hours of that game is making me exhausted. So absolutely not. But yeah, it's Kena Bridge of Spirits is a great game with an asterisk, and that's about as summed up as I can get. So with that being said, let's get into the gaming news for this week. I know it's already been almost an hour, so I'll try to breeze through this stuff. It's been a pretty slow week in terms of news, so Probably shouldn't be too bad. But first off, pretty big news, like our probably biggest news of the week. We're getting a Nintendo Direct today. Just got announced yesterday morning, but it's at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. You can do whatever conversion you want for that. They said it would mostly be focusing on games coming this winter. So even though some of these games aren't coming out in the winter, I'm sure that they're talking about that umbrella. So I'm sure we're going to get more info on Metroid Dread, the new Mario Party, Shin Megami Tensei 5. We still haven't gotten a ton of information on that, so I'm pretty sure it's a surefire bet that that's going to be one of the big games shown off, because I feel like that's Nintendo's, big fall game is SMG5 or SMT5, sorry. Yeah, so I feel like that'll probably be one of, if not the biggest game there. We might see Breath of the Wild 2. I don't know. I feel like we won't. As much as I would love to see it, I feel like seeing it 2 Nintendo Directs in a row is too good to be true. So probably not that. They usually do Pokemon Directs separate, so I doubt, maybe we get, a new quick trailer for Diamond and Pearl. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see Pokemon there. I think it's possible we get some more Splatoon 3 info, because it's been a while and it did say 2022. Like I said, they did say they're focusing on games coming this winter, so that's technically not Splatoon unless it's coming out in January or something. But or Splatoon 3, I think I might have said Splatoon 2, but could see that. Maybe we finally get, oh my god, fingers crossed, we finally get information on Bayonetta 3. I think that's honestly, if I had to bet on one big reveal, I think it would be that. Or maybe even Metroid Prime 4. Now that we're getting all the Metroid Prime or the Metroid Dread hype, maybe they're we get a brand new trailer for Metroid Dread, and then they're like, oh yeah, and one more thing, Prime 4. Yeah, I don't know, maybe. That's, one can dream. Actually, not Prime 4, Prime Trilogy Remaster. That would be it. So we get Metroid Dread trailer, then announcement of Metroid Prime Trilogy coming in, I don't know, December. And then as we get close to the Metroid Prime Trilogy's release, we get another trailer or whatever, and then, oh yeah, and here's some Prime 4. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just throwing out guesses. But anyway, Nintendo Direct coming today, a few hours from now for you guys, if you're watching right as this airs. But yeah. Secondly, we've had another Blizzard leaving situation. So the executive producer of Overwatch 2, whose name I am trying to look for here, but it is not currently coming up, Checo Sunny, I don't know if I pronounced that right, is leaving Blizzard Entertainment. Said he wanted some time off. The quote was, "Blizzard has been an absolute privilege and one of the best experiences of my career." There was more. Okay, this article isn't saying anything, but I know he said he just wanted some time off. Whether or not this is in regard to the lawsuit going on, involving, just all sexual harassment and different discrimination things going on in the company, who knows? But that's now 2 big people who have left Overwatch in the last few years. The first being Daddy Jeff Kaplan, and now his successor has also left. So, not super reassuring news regarding the Overwatch community, but, we'll see. We'll see how that pans out. A lot of people are saying Overwatch 2 is never going to come out. Personally, I still am not too worried. I feel like it's going to launch next year, as the 2022 season of Overwatch Esports is going to use an early build of Overwatch 2. So that makes me think that it is at least nearing completion. If it's using an early build, people are gonna have their hands on it, and so I would think they're gearing up for a fall 22, maybe early 23 release. But yeah, I think the game will come out. I'm not super worried about it never coming out. Whether it should come out, who's to say? But yeah. it's complicated. Activision Blizzard is just a whole big kerfluffle. But next up, Halo Infinite test flights. We got more information on those, and so it's all sorts of stuff. If you know about the last one, it's like it's not always going to be PvP, so players will only have access to multiplayer from 10 a.m. Pacific to 2 p.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Pacific to 9 p.m. Pacific on Friday through Sunday. That is this Friday through Sunday, and then well, hold on. I'm trying to find this. Okay, so basically, yeah, so during those times is when PvP will be available. And the rest of the times, because it is available from Thursday the 23rd, which is today, to Sunday the 26th, and then again next weekend, Thursday the 30th through Sunday, October 3rd. Like I said, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific on Friday through Sunday of both weekends, they will have PvP, whereas outside of those times, they will have access to training mode, weapon drills, battle pass, and customization. So you'll be able to play against bots, similar to how the last test flight operated. And so basically, they've explained the reason for this is essentially they want to stress the servers as much as possible to make sure that they're okay for when this game launches, and so they want to be able to stuff as many people into the servers as possible and make sure everything's okay. So that's why they have limited times for PvP. But yeah, that's what's going on. And let's see. And I believe the 4v4 arena mode will be available this weekend, and then next weekend they'll have 4v4 and 12v12 big team battle. So yeah, if you are interested in the flight testing, have at it. Me personally, I'm not going to, as much as I would love to. One, I'm very busy right now, and two, I'm okay with waiting until launch to really get into it. So, but from what I've seen thus far, it looks amazing, and I'm very excited to play for myself. But my time will come at a later date. But if you're interested in that, there you are. Next up, Heavy Rain developer Quantic Dream is rumored to be making a Star Wars game. Before I get into that, I'm taking another drink. But yeah, so it is rumored that they have recently signed a deal with Disney. That's what confuses me, is because it's been, well, I mean, I guess after they came out with Detroit Become Human, they maybe focused on the PC port, but like, what have they been doing for the past year at least, huh? Like, maybe they had something and it didn't really work out. I don't know. But it seems like they might be making a Star Wars game. I would imagine it's in early development. Now, for people being like, oh, it's another PlayStation exclusive, like citing KOTOR, don't, like, hold your horses, because they also announced, I think it was last year, that Quantic Dream announced that they were going back to being multi-plat instead of just releasing their games on PlayStation. So this game would quite possibly come to PlayStation and Xbox. So it would not be platform exclusive to either. They have said that they want to shift focus and develop for Xbox as well now. So don't worry about exclusivity necessarily just yet, but I'm really excited. I love narrative-driven games. I think Quantic Dream is really, really cool. People debate, the quality of their games, a lot, but that type of game is right up my alley, so I would love to see what they would do with the Star Wars property. So this is nothing but good news to me, but keep in mind, this is just a rumor. It's not confirmed, and I doubt we'll hear anything about it super soon, because if the rumor is to be believed, it sounds like it was a fairly recent deal. So again, the game is probably in very early development anyway, but we'll see. Finally, some sad news. Battlefield 2042 has been delayed until November 19th, pushing it almost a month from the original October 22nd release date. not super surprising here, as the beta still hasn't happened, and we are now less than a month from from the original release dates. So it's not, people were kind of wondering, like, hey, what's going on? And so the update is not super, or the delay is not super surprising. But hopefully that means good things. Me personally, like, I am excited for Battlefield to kind of go back to the 3 and 4 era of things. I know this is in the future and all of that, but as much as I enjoyed 1, I've always liked the sort of modern warfare or near future, that sort of stuff in my FPS games. I just, they've, I don't know, this is what I like, bro. I like that. I'm a modern warfare kind of guy, and Battlefield 4 was my favorite Battlefield game. I know that is a very unpopular opinion, and I don't care to you're probably right. It's just me personally, Battlefield 4 was my favorite. It's the one I played the most, and I would just squat up with my best friend and his uncle, and we would do that. And honestly, I low-key really want to get 2042, just because back when we played Battlefield 4, and we would play together, back then I was I don't know, 16 maybe. I don't even remember how old I was when we were playing that game. 15 maybe. And so my best friend was around that age too, and his uncle's a lot older, and so he would basically he had this routine, him and his friends were obsessed with Battlefield, and so every weekend they would get drunk and play Battlefield together. And so there was one weekend where we joined them, and he was drunk, and we were just laughing at how drunk he was. But now my buddy and we are old enough that we can now participate, and so low-key I would love to continue that tradition on now that I can participate in said tradition. And so drunk Battlefield nights, sound like a bet for me. So there is a part of me that has excitement for Battlefield, but also I am pretty fatigued by FPS games nowadays. It's just one of those things where I don't know. I'm a little worried right now because my Streamlabs isn't moving in terms of the there we go, the mic. I'm sorry, I wanted to make sure that it was recording my audio correctly, but I think it's just a little hiccup. But yeah, we'll see. I've liked what I've seen from Battlefield this far, but I don't know if it's going to be a day one pickup for me. I might kind of wait and see how people feel about it, because again, we've had so many FPS games, and Battlefield and Call of Duty are the prime examples of those. And it's just, Battlefield knows it's not a yearly franchise, so that I do give them. Call of Duty, I'm so over. It's one of those things where I can't remember the last time I was genuinely excited about a Call of Duty game, and I think it's kind of spilling over into Battlefield too at this point. But I'm getting some nostalgia excitement for sure. But anyway, delayed until November, unfortunately. Hopefully that means good things. So anyway, let's get on to the games coming this week. I know that I'm definitely running very, very low on time, but we'll try to quickly go through this. We got a lot of games coming this week, so at least that's fun. Today, we've got Sable for Xbox Series S and X, Xbox One, and PC. Embark on a unique and unforgettable journey and guide Sable through her gliding, a rite of passage that will take her across vast deserts and mesmerizing landscapes capped by the remains of spaceships and ancient wonders. So this game has been a highly anticipated indie title. It's coming to Game Pass day one, so my Xbox users, very little investment needed for that. But the art style looks really, really good for this. I'm going to be keeping my eye out on this one, see what people have to say, because, I have Game Pass, so if I hear it's really good, I'll just go ahead and install it and boot it up. And so that is out today. Also today, Lord of the Rings Rise to War for iOS and Android. Epic tales of old, be it of love, friendship, or glory, are in days bygone. A new War of the Ring is on the horizon, and the fate of Middle-earth now falls into your hands. An irrepressible dark power has been growing and seeping through every inch of Middle-earth, from Minas Tirith wait, Minas Tirith. I'm sorry, I'm not a Lord of the Rings nut, so I don't like. I like it, but I'm not a super fan. To Mount Doom, each faction is desperate to seize control over the One Ring and take dominion over Middle Earth once and for all. What can I say? It's a Lord of the Rings mobile game. Take that as you will. Also out today, Diablo 2 Resurrected for PS5, Xbox Series S and X, PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Diablo 2 Resurrected breathes new life into Blizzard Entertainment's acclaimed ARPG and its expansion, Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction, from beginning to end. Return to fight for Sanctuary and discover the fate of the mysterious Dark Wanderer, rebuilt in all-new 3D graphics, brand new cinematics, remastered audio, and the same classic Diablo 2 gameplay you remember. So, I've heard a lot of people say that Diablo 2 is the best Diablo, and so I was really excited about this. I'm less so now with all of the stuff going on with Activision Blizzard, like I said, with the sexual harassment lawsuit and discrimination. If you didn't know, recently, this happened last week, they are actually now being sued by the federal government for their, their just like discrimination and that sort of thing, and so the CEO has been subpoenaed, so it's continuing to build, and so you know, I'm very iffy about giving them money right now, even though I am excited for this game, and so it's kind of, you know, a gray area, because you want to support the devs, because these are the people that are being discriminated against, like some of the people that are working on this game, I'm sure, and so it's one of those things where it's like, why make them suffer even more? But at the same time, you're also putting money in the hands of pockets of some of the people who did these things, potentially. And so, yeah, you know, figure out your own ethics on that, but it's out today. And so I'm going to take another drink before my next game, which is Lost Judgment for PS5, Xbox Series S and X, PS4, and Xbox One tomorrow. Lost Judgment once again puts players in the sneakers of lawyer-turned-street-fighting detective Takeyuki Yagami. Joined by his partner, ex-Yakuza Masaharu Kaito, the crime-fighting duo is called on to investigate a seemingly perfect crime whose lead suspect has an airtight alibi. What starts out as a tale of revenge reveals a tangled web of conspiracy involving several unlikely factions taking advantage of a broken law system. But as victims pile up and Yagami unravels the truth, he must choose between defending the law or exacting justice. So, I really, really loved the first Judgment game. It takes the Yakuza franchise and inserts a lot of detective aspects into it, which I really love. And so, I'm really excited for this sequel. The reviews have been really, really good so far. So, yeah, I'm excited for this. If you are as well, it's out tomorrow. And so, enjoy. Also out tomorrow, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot for Nintendo Switch. Experience the story of Dragon Ball Z from epic events to lighthearted side quests, including never-before-seen story moments that answer some burning questions of Dragon Ball lore for the first time. So, I've played this. I played it when it first came out January of 2020, and, you know, it suffers from what most video game adaptations, or most, I guess, TV, or really anime and other like TV show, video game adaptations suffer from, where the gameplay is like, you know, it's pretty outdated and, you know, kind of repetitive. It's not super, super great. It's just kind of like, you know, it's fun enough, but it's, you know, it's not amazing. But it's a really, really fun way to experience the Dragon Ball Z story. So if you're a fan of Dragon Ball, or honestly, like, if you watched the original Dragon Ball and didn't watch Dragon Ball Z, or, like, you just really want to know the Dragon Ball Z story, but you don't want to sit through, like, 200 episodes, like, it's a really fun way to experience the story. So I actually would recommend this game, even though it's not perfect, and, like, some of the gameplay aspects are, like, so-so, but, you know, it's entertaining enough. Like, this game isn't going to blow your mind, but it's not a bad game. Like, you're not going to be, like, playing it being like, oh, this sucks. So, like, I actually would recommend this game to fans of Dragon Ball, or people looking to get into Dragon Ball, because, like, it's a really nice, compressed way to play the story, but without, like, it's not rushed. Like, everything that's important is there, but it's much easier to digest than watching the show. And so I would actually recommend this, but it's coming to Switch tomorrow. And it also comes with the Power Awakens expansion as well. So it's got pretty much everything you need. And now you can take it on the go. But yeah, that's out tomorrow. Also out tomorrow, Death Stranding Director's Cut for PS5. From legendary game creator Hideo Kojima comes a game genre-defying experience, now expanded and remastered in this definitive director's cut. Enjoy advanced combat and a new competitive ranking system, use additional weapons and vehicles, take on new enemies, and explore new locations with extra missions and minigames. Experience an extended storyline in an expanded area and stay connected with players across the globe. So, I have tried multiple times to get through Death Stranding. It hasn't worked. My ADHD is too powerful for it, but I would like to sometime. It's kind of a bucket list thing for me to beat Death Stranding. I don't know, maybe with the director's cut I'll finally do it. We'll see, I don't know. But I'm busy, so but if you're interested, that's out tomorrow. And then on Tuesday, we've got Agatha Christie, Hercule Poirot? That's the best I can do. The first cases for PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Discover an untold crime story from the mysterious youth of the famous detective Hercule Poirot. Again, not with a name that difficult to pronounce. Could he really be that famous? I don't know. But these are video games made off of Agatha Christie's works. If you don't know her, she was a very famous author that wrote a lot of detective novels and stuff. And so this is one of her characters. They're making video games because they're trying to cash in on it. But yeah, if you want a good detective game, there's one coming out on Tuesday. Well, if you want a good detective game, play Lost Judgment. But if you're looking for a different kind that's like maybe not so mature, here you go. So also on Tuesday, Ghost Runner is coming out on next gen PS5 and Xbox Series S and X. Ghost Runner is a hardcore FPP game packed with lightning-fast action set in a grim cyberpunk megastructure. Climb Dharma Tower, humanity's last shelter after a world-ending cataclysm, make your way up from the bottom to the top, confront the tyrannical Keymaster, and take your revenge. This game blends two of my favorite things, cyberpunk and parkour, and so it's a very good game. I have it on PC, and so if you haven't had the chance to check it out yet, please do so. And yeah, on next gen it's going to look even prettier and probably run a little better too. And so yeah, exciting. And good on them, this little indie studio for, porting this game everywhere and having that success. It's a very good game. It is the best cyberpunk game of 2020, which everyone thought was going to be Cyberpunk 2077, but yeah. Then also on Tuesday, Lemnis Gates is coming out on PS5, Xbox Series S and X, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Lemnis Gate is a revolutionary turn-based combat strategy FPS taking place in a time loop. Master the unique abilities of powerful deep space operatives and compete in mind-bending four-dimensional battles. So this game kind of sort of boggles my mind. I don't really quite understand how it works, because you heard me right, it's a turn-based combat strategy FPS. So yeah, it's weird. And so basically it's a multiplayer game where it's turn-based, and so you run around, and it's like there are rounds of people that will then take turns kind of doing their moves. But it's built like an FPS, so it looks like a Call of Duty game, but it runs like an XCOM game. But it's not top down; it's like an FPS, and so it's a weird genre mesh, and I don't know if it's gonna work well. But if they pull it off, it sounds really, really cool. And so yeah, that's coming out on Tuesday. Yeah. Also on Tuesday, New World is finally coming out on PC, Amazon's first game. Explore a thrilling open-world MMO filled with danger and opportunity, where you'll forge a new destiny on the supernatural island of Aeternum. So, MMOs I've never really gotten super into, but this looks like a mix of World of Warcraft and Elder Scrolls, so it could be really good. Who knows? I don't know. Like I said, I had access to the beta a while ago, but I never actually played it because, again, I've never really gotten into MMOs, but who knows? Maybe I will with this one. But yeah, if anything, I'm just curious to see what Amazon's first game is like. But now that they finally put one out after all of them have gotten canceled. So, yeah, that's coming out on Tuesday. Also on Tuesday, Outer Wilds Echoes of the Eye for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. A strange satellite photo that can't be explained, a new museum exhibit that marks the trailhead for one last journey into the wilds. Should you pull at the thread and unravel the solar system's deepest secret, or is some knowledge better left in the dark? So, this is the expansion for Outer Wilds that no one knew about until a couple months ago. It's coming out. I still haven't played the main game. Everybody, like, people have been nagging me to, but I just haven't gotten around to it. But yeah, I'm sure there are people that are very excited for it. And so that's coming out on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we've even got games coming out. Like I said, we got a bunch of games coming. So first off, Centipede Recharged for PS5, Xbox Series S and X, PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Blast bugs and chase high scores in this glorious revival of an old school classic, all while jamming to a heart-pounding original score by Megan McDuffie. Play solo or tag a friend for local co-op across 30 unique challenges or the endless arcade mode. That's right, the Atari game Centipede is coming back in 2021. Cross that off your bingo card. Yeah, so, you know, if for my nostalgia people out there, this one's for you, but it's coming out on Wednesday. And then also on Wednesday, Insurgency Sandstorm is finally coming out on consoles, specifically PS4 and Xbox One. Battle in the war-torn environments of a contemporary conflict through a series of intense cooperative and PvP multiplayer modes, featuring unparalleled immersion, feel every bullet and fear every impact in fierce close-quarters combat. So, this is kind of like a... it's basically if like COD and CSGO had a baby. Insurgency is all about like realistic gameplay, but in that multiplayer FPS environment. And so it's definitely a very like PC oriented game, but now it's finally coming to consoles. This is actually the sequel to the 2014 game. Came out on PC a while back, got pretty good reviews, and so if you're interested in that sort of thing, it's finally coming to consoles. And so with that, I'm going to take one last drink and talk about what I've been doing in my off hours before I skedaddle out of here. I already talked about the games I've been playing. I've been playing Deathloop and Kana a lot. And then in terms of outside of that, I've been watching the new What If, of course. You know, it's my weekly ritual. Very excited for the upcoming finale. We've got 2 episodes left. Seems like they're going to start tying stuff together in fun ways, and I'm 100% here for it. And I also binged all of Star Wars Visions like 2 hours after it came out, and it is fantastic. I feel like this is going to be ignored by a lot of Star Wars fans because it's not canon and it's kind of experimental. I mean, it is experimental, but 100% do not miss out on this, especially if you like anime. Because if you don't know what this is, it is literally an anthology series of short films that are made by different anime studios. And so it's basically their take on the Star Wars mythos. And it's really, really, really good. Like, some of the shorts are absurdly good, and I would love to see, like, established into, like, TV shows or films or whatever. And really, I want a full Star Wars anime at this point. Like, something akin to, like, Dragon Ball or Naruto, but, like, Star Wars would just be awesome. Like, that's all I want at this point because of this show. But, yeah, definitely watch it. I heavily recommend. They're actually they're releasing a book next month based off of, like, expanding on the first episode, The Duel. And it's called Star Wars Ronin. And I immediately pre-ordered it after watching Visions because I just want more of this type of stuff because it was really, really good. So, please do not sleep on Visions. Go watch it. It's on Disney Plus. There's 9 shorts. It's basically like the length of a movie because they're, like I said, they're all short films. They're like ranging from like 10 to 20 minutes long and usually about 15 minutes. And so, yeah, go watch it. It's really, really good. And I've also been reading some of the Immortal Hulk run again. So, like I said, I've been behind on comics, so I've been catching up, and I'm almost caught up with the Immortal Hulk now. I just started really getting into like the leader arc, and so Like the one I was reading was The Keeper of the Door, that volume, and Jesus, this run is so good. Like, if you are a fan of comics or a fan of Hulk, like either of the two, you gotta read this run. It's so good. Just like really taking, like, I've always loved Hulk, but in terms of story, he's always been a little lacking. Like, everybody loves him because he's just really cool. Like, he's a big strong guy. Like, everybody likes him for the action and all that. But in terms of like story depth, he's always been kind of lacking. This run just blows that out of the water, and so just read it. It's really, really good, and so I've been having fun with that. But anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. So it was a pretty long episode, but we had some fun stuff to talk about. I actually was considering adding another thing to talk about, but I'm glad I didn't, so I will save that until maybe next week. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time for the big 50. That'll be fun. And so thank you guys for listening / watching / however the heck you consume this content. I really do appreciate it. I love making this podcast, and like I said, I will be back next week for more fun. See you guys.